On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Worldwide issues and trade platforms and a COVID crisis and negotiating stimulus plans with, the Senate and Nancy Pelosi and all of these people. And they have time to, at the very least, hear you out and sit down and hear what you have to say. But we're going to align ourselves and not give that same level of criticism at the very least. At least be objective to give the same level of criticism to the very person who has less on their plate than anybody in government, won't even hear you, and you telling me that makes sense because they told you the truth, that they wouldn't even sit down and had a conversation with you. Not even an aide, not anybody from the administration's party, nobody, no handler, nobody was willing to sit down and have the conversation with you, and you telling me that makes sense.
Welcome to Lapeef, Let's Talk. I'm here with the crew as usual. We got Anton.
What up, though?
Tawana.
Hey, y'all.
And B Nix.
Out here.
Of course, myself, J.I. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Our first topic, Ice Cube, contract with black people. There's been a lot of talk surrounding Ice Cube's decision to have a conversation with Trump about his platinum plan. My first thought when I heard a platinum plan, right? A lot of plans never get done. What is Ice Cube going to possibly tell Trump that Trump will actually do? A lot of celebrities secretly support Trump to protect their money. So does that mean that Ice Cube supports Trump? What is the contract with black people? B Nix, when you first heard just this statement alone, what were your immediate thoughts?
Hey, can I be honest and say I didn't really care? I feel like we're elevating the fact that this is Ice Cube we're talking about because it's Cube. He gets this extra attention in my life that I gotta care about his platinum plan. It's kind of like, hey, who did he vet this with? It's like, I'm not saying he didn't know what he was talking about. I don't necessarily say I feel for him, but I dislike the way it was presented. I think the way it was presented, and almost like the way it's been socialized in the media, is the same way that you presented it, JR. That this was like a partnership that he and Trump had together. Then you have to read a little bit more of the story, that this is something that he had been working on actually for, a few months. He presented it to both parties. Okay, cool. One said to say like, hey, cool, we'll holler at you after the election. We got real business to work on. Okay, Trump, yeah, take a seat. We'll look at it. We'll take part of your plan and incorporate it into our stuff. So the thing is, then it's like, well, who has ownership over the actionable outcomes of it? Is it him, or is it, the Trump administration or the Republicans? So the thing is, I respect his approach, but not even his approach. I respect the idea, the concept of wanting to do more, to give back, to do better. But I think that we get caught up into these concepts because of these personalities, of these celebrities, of people that have this media influence, that because Ice Cube said he has a platinum plan for us, then I need to stand behind it. We treat black folks as all being monolithic, that all of a sudden that we have one mind, one voice. We are all individuals, we're all human beings. And the thing is, I think in a certain regard, it negates the work of the people who have been in the trenches, who have already been developing their plans. So like, to me, how's that Cube's plan get elevated directly to the president? I don't care how much I dislike Trump. Nobody don't have a go route directly to the president. So I admire the fact that he does have that lane in that space, but I feel like it should be a collaborative effort, and maybe he did, and maybe I just don't know enough. I think there are benefits of it in what he's talking about as far as like reinvestment in the black community, but I think it was an aspect of this plan that talked about black accountability or whatever like that. That was the part where it's like, well, I want to say, who are you to tell me what I need to be accountable for as a black man? And I'm not saying I'm against it, but it's just like, who gives you the right? And maybe I'm just being difficult. Maybe I'm just being the typical black person. Or maybe politicians are being the typical politicians. They just used it for a nice story. They got us talking about it.
Right.
If somebody's woke, they would say it's a distraction. So the thing is, I got real stuff going on in my life. I don't got time to really entertain it. If it plays out, cool. But my thing is that, like, only thing I can care about is my environment, my circle, my culture. What Cube was talking about, I support him, but really, I didn't really care.
Didn't care. Anton, you first heard Ice Cube was talking to Trump. What was your first thoughts?
My understanding of it was that, because it would be different, I think. Even the narrative should be different in people's minds if, I guess, Trump had reached out to Ice Cube. But he reached out to the party in its entirety. He didn't just reach out to, I think the thing that's getting lost in the sauce is he didn't just reach out to one party. He put together whatever it is that he wanted to put together, and he reached out to both parties. So if that's not being objective, I don't know what is. I'll tackle the idea behind people's uproar against Ice Cube itself. But in general, from the outset, my understanding of it was that he reached out to both parties. One party spun him like, yeah, we'll holler at you later. And then the other party was like, yeah, let's sit down and put something together. And I'm inclined to believe that they are, or they will, abide by their word based off of a lot of the things that they've done, working with black leaders in the black community. They've overfunded and done more funding for HBCUs than any president within my lifetime. They've also created opportunity zones where places like Atlanta and places like, black communities, urban communities have traditionally not been funded in the past, but they've received billions of dollars throughout his tenure. In addition to that, he created and advocated for, not just during the election time, but prior to, has worked on and passed criminal justice reform that has freed a significant amount of black people. So why wouldn't I be inclined to believe that he's going to participate in having this conversation and continuing to push an agenda when the track record says he has? A lot of people get upset by the person, but I'm not looking to be your friend. I don't care about your personality. I care about your policy. What has your policies and your track records done? And if your track record says this, why would I look at it any differently? So the whole thing that it comes down to is, if you don't like somebody, it doesn't matter what the track record is, both of the administration themselves or the person that's advocating for it, such as Ice Cube, right? It don't matter what they do. People are prisoners of the moment. They're emotional, and they're overwhelming majority of the time, according to what I see on social media, they're unable to detach themselves from how they feel about a specific person in order to figure out whether or not somebody is actually going to help you or benefit you. If I don't like this guy, for example, and I'm not even talking about Trump specifically, but just in general, if I don't like somebody, but I'm in a difficult situation, and somebody says, you know what, I can help you become a better person, or I can help you become, get in a better position of power or improve your situation, why would I slap that hand? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, well, maybe I should at the very least have the conversation. Don't mean I have to go through with it. Don't mean that it has to translate into anything specific, or maybe we both walk away. But when you object to having the conversation, or you neglect from having the conversation, you get absolutely nothing done. And I think people, especially black people, are so quick to judge and so quick to say what it is versus having a conversation based off of what it could be. So that was my initial thoughts and my initial impression of the whole situation.
Gotcha. Tawana, when you first heard that Ice Cube wanted to speak with Trump, and they had conversations, what were your first thoughts?
I mean, I don't think that's what happened. I think it's exactly what Anton said, that he presented this idea, the contract with Black, to both parties. And subsequently, the Democratic Party told him to let's wait until after election to tackle this. Like, we like the plan, but we just need, we need some time to tackle this. And the Trump administration reached out immediately. And I think that his entire purpose was to get this information out. He wasn't really particularly concerned with what party, supporting him or not. He's more concerned with who's going to actually listen and really implement change. And he has yet to discover who that is going to actually be, but he just appreciated having that opportunity to talk to the people who could make change, who have the power to make change. And I think that was important, and that was lost I think people felt like he aligned himself with Trump, and I disagree completely that that's not what happened. And I think that it's easy to say, you're a sellout, just because everyone knows that Trump has made some problematic statements, and he has pretty much, made it very clear who his allegiance is with, and I think that worries a lot of minorities, because we feel like there's a threat to us, our security, our national security. So we have every right to question why he would want to align himself with that person. But I don't think that that was the premise and that was the purpose. And I actually read the contract with Black, and I thought that he addressed some really pertinent issues in our community. And the premise is really just to address racial inequality in our society. And he felt like, we needed some contract. I think that all of these different issues have been said and the disparities have been noted, but it's not one person who brings that contract like in one area, right? And it's just a total focus on it. And I think that that was what Ice Cube tried to do. And I do believe that, he addressed like the wealth gap, bank lending inequalities, prison reform. He just talked about so many great things. And I think he really doesn't care what, who he uses to get this information out. He just feels like it's important. And I think that the accountability thing didn't bother me so much, because I felt like the Black responsibility was key to the entire thing. I think he said, hey, if we remove all these barriers, right, and we basically put Black people on an equal playing field in America, when we do all of these reforms and we put all of these initiatives in place, we will not have a reason why we're not successful. We will not have a reason why crime rates won't decrease in our area, why there won't be influx of alcoholism, domestic violence, abuse. He was basically just saying that once we implement all of these reforms, I mean, he asked for interest-free housing, interest-free loans for housing. So you would buy a house and you would buy the house for whatever price it was. And he asked for some great things that would basically help elevate and make us equal to other races. And he just talked about the disparities in wealth gap. And I think that many people, what they do is they don't really understand the purpose of, and I think it's great that Ice Cube is using his name as a platform to advocate for these issues, because it's obviously something that we need, and things that is important to Black America. And I don't know for sure if the BLM movement is being successful in pushing this agenda. And I don't know if their purpose is very clear, because a lot of people have found that they've aligned themselves with a different value system than a lot of Black people align with. So I don't have too many issues with it. I do think that his perception is the problem, the perception of who he tried to align himself with, and people automatically was emotionally charged by his alignment with Trump, instead of really listening to the facts and what his purpose was.
It's kind of like they was ready to cancel him out, huh?
Yeah, they. You know what? They'll cancel culture on you in a minute. They probably gonna cancel me out.
Hey, don't get Anton
they gonna
started.
cancel me out if I agree with Trump. So
Right.
Don't get Anton
You know
started
what?
with cancel
I think
culture.
it's good for people like Ice Cube to be at the forefront of having these conversations, because now you're talking about people that don't care about whether or not people are cancel or not. Like, he don't care about what social media is thinking and stuff like that. And I guess the interesting part about it is similar to the comment that was just displayed on the screen. People are not even having the conversation about what Tawana just described, right? They're only talking about Trump and whether or not. Listen, fam, what Ice Cube said was, he didn't say he reached out to Biden. He didn't say he reached out to Trump. He said he reached out to the parties.
he did.
Which means there are more people that encompasses a specific party. You're talking about the Congress and the House of Representatives and the Senate and all of the different people on a local level that plays a role in, how your life will be affected on a day-to-day basis. So, people just automatically sum things up based off of their dislike for one specific purpose, which puts you in a disadvantaged position because you're not objective in understanding. And I would guarantee you, I'd be willing to bet that the overwhelming majority of the people that's having these conversations never even read what the proposal was.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're right. But, I think that I support everything you said, Anton. What I think it does be, and what Tawana was saying, we're getting perception as reality, right? Where we're more concerned about the approach on how the story was released versus the content. Because I've even seen where people will say, like, well, where was Ice Cube 4 years ago or whatever? And the thing is, like, Ice Cube has built his name off really representing not just the streets, but neighborhoods, black folks. And the thing is like, wow, like, little do we, soon do we forget. But the thing is, I think it's this. That's why I say I'm in support of the concept. I mean, I think if anything, we see more people that are inclined, that are in positions of power to leverage their privilege. Even though Ice Cube is not white, but we always associate privilege with white folks. The thing is, he has a level of privilege, celebrity privilege, that we do not have. So it's like, at the same time, I gotta commend him that he does have the level of access to be able to navigate to these level of partners that I don't have. But I think for the people that, like Anton is talking about, and Tawana, where it's like, hey, folks are big mad right now about, oh, he talked to Trump. Regardless of the case, I think that we also need to say, like, hell, as far as the level of privilege that Ice Cube possessed, he still is willing to find a way to contribute to the cause. So I think, if anything, this made me realize that, you know what, we need to continue our fight locally. Anton,
well, I mean, can people not
in the communities, aldermen, whatever, block clubs, whatever, we need to continue to do that.
Hey, Dex, I want to ask you about the timing. Do you think the timing was off?
Well, I want to say yes. My first answer is yes, but he didn't release this story though. Like he didn't really necessarily release this as a, like Anton mentioned, he's not a social media person. So the thing is, this actually came from, well, whatever, not press secretary, but somebody from Trump's campaign, through Twitter. So the thing is, he didn't release this on his own, and he actually had conversations and videos leading up to this. But I feel that, like, hey, much as Ice Cube not a social media person, I was surprised that he had to provide a response to this, So it shows that even somebody with the stature of Ice Cube, the power of social media, we're all human. It gets to us.
Right.
And he felt the need to respond. But I think that was more so media driven. He didn't release that story. They did. So that's why I feel, going back to just the Trump aspect of this story, it does seem a little misleading, because it's like, now I'm trying to do this kind of comparison of, this is what I'm doing for black folks as far as the Republican Party, and that's what the Democrats aren't doing. So the thing is, I appreciate the clarity of saying, like, no, Q's, like Anton mentioned, like, Q, hey, I reached out to both of them.
Right. You know what? I was doing my research on this topic, and I saw that he had been doing a lot of interviews lately. And so I hear you guys say that you don't know if, well, he responded to the people. I think the people was getting to him. And I felt like he had to go on all these networks in order to defend himself.
Ice Cube?
Yeah, Ice Cube. Yeah, talking about Ice Cube. I feel like he did, because I missed a lot of interviews. He did a lot. And I don't know if it was to bring attention to the contract with black people, or if it was he really got in his feelings just reading everything on the media. But I can understand the confusion from everyone. If we're not having conversations, then people say that we need to talk. We need to speak up and do something about it. If we have the conversations, then you got people questioning why. B. Nix, do you feel as though Trump is using Cube to secure black votes?
Yeah, but isn't Biden doing the same thing? They all do. Like, so to me, am I surprised? No. Have we seen this before? Yes. So why be up in arms about it when we already know the rules of the game and know how to play? This is the game within the game, especially right now. Because we've seen, I guess based on COVID, it has adjusted things, but we've seen muddier campaigns, messier campaigns. This campaign really has not been as messy as far as mudslinging across, between both candidates. But hey, whatever competitive advantage that each candidate can do, they're going to leverage it. So I feel it was convenient. It was convenient on Trump's part, and honestly, it's typical.
Yeah. Tawana, do you feel like Trump is using Ice Cube to secure black votes?
No, I believe he's using Ice Cube to secure liberal middle class white votes. I think that's who he wants to target. Let me tell you who he's gonna appeal to, because every black person that I know saw straight through the bull. Like, no black person is falling for that. We don't believe that Trump is on our side. We don't believe that. No, we understand that Ice Cube has a cause that he wants to push the awareness and he wants to get it out. But we understand that Trump is not aligned with African Americans, or most liberals understand that. So what we know to be true, and what I know to be true, is that he is losing the middle class liberal white vote. He's losing it significantly. And what he's trying to do is make an effort to look human, to look like he has some sense of empathy for our community, and therefore it may change, it may sway some people's thoughts about him as a president. So yeah, historically, when you're in office, most presidents serve both terms. So most times the president who's currently in office wins. And so he's trying to win, right? He's trying to make sure that he wins, and he's setting it up for that. So absolutely not. I don't think he's using Ice Cube for that. I don't think he cares enough about African American people to do something like that. I think it is specifically to target liberals, and that middle class population that he's losing. Yeah.
I think you make a good point. The swing vote, right? So the thing is like, or the independent vote.
Right.
I mean, I think we talked about this in the previous show. I mean, I can't document it, but I know that typically, if you Democrat, most of the time that's about 40% right there. You vote Republican, it's the same 40%.
Right.
It really is that gap. Is that 10% really? Mm-hmm. I mean, that 20% that could go either way.
Yeah.
Anton, do you feel as though Trump was using Ice Cube to secure black votes?
No, I don't think that he's using Ice Cube to secure black votes, because the overwhelming majority of people that are impartial and are unable to look at things objectively they already hate him anyway. Like, it don't matter if you gave every single black person reparations and everything. They're going to say they hate him no matter what, because it's not about the actual action, it's about the presence of people. And people are unable to look at things objectively. They're unable to look at things and say, you know what, how do I make a decision based off of what policy affects me best?
I don't know. I think unless we got that stimulus check, he may have swung some votes.
But I mean, every single president has given some form of stimulus, something in our lifetime, in our voting lifetime. So that's no different. Again, it's all about presentation. If I say, "Oh man, I absolutely love you," and then I stab you in the back, you'll love me more and vote for me more than if I say, "Man, I don't really care for you, fam, but you know what? We got the same objective and things that we trying to accomplish. You can scratch my back, I can scratch your back, and we can figure out how to make this work." People don't look at life like that. They don't look at being able to see how I can benefit from this thing. They'll rather align themselves with the person that they're used to hurting you. It's like being in a bad relationship. I feel like, liberals and black people have been in this very horrible, toxic relationship with their Democratic Party for so long that they've just learned to embrace them. It's almost like a woman being in a toxic relationship with an abusive man. You don't understand why she's still in there with him, but he just gonna keep on whooping that tail when she not gonna feel like he don't love her unless he put his hands on her. So, she see that there's other things out there, but for some reason she's unable to detach herself and look at things objectively versus aligning themselves. See, I don't even understand why people even say I'm a liberal or I'm a such and such. It's almost like, how can you just say you align with a specific party with a whole bunch of people that got a whole lot of different objectives that affect how you live on a bunch of different places? You didn't even say that you align with people based off of character or policy or anything. It's automatically, I'm this thing. and that automatically puts them in a position to align themselves or be more open to the possibility of the people of that specific party that they align themselves. So I don't feel like he used him. I feel like that he's taking advantage of what he's putting out. I'm giving you something, you give me something in return. We do the same thing. Every single day we do it.
I almost feel like, I don't know if he's using them, but I know Trump's seen opportunity. So, whether we, like it or not, I just feel like it couldn't hurt him to actually hear him out. I don't think that he's going to actually do anything. Like I say, anytime a president says a plan, we go back and look, a lot of stuff didn't get done.
Never.
They can't do everything. So I just think that Trump saw the opportunity and he capitalized on it. And if he did win some votes over, that's a win for him. That's how he's looking at it.
Right.
Just recently, D.L. Hughley had something to say about Ice Cube and Trump. I'll play the little footage right now.
Rappers, and if we were talking about making a great album or some of the other projects he's done, that's all in. But to sit down with that man who only uses black people for caricatures, only for backdrops, only for photo ops, it is insulting. Yes, we need to be in the room, but it needs to be the right people in the room. People who have expertise on any number of problems that plague us. Any number of problems. And while you were meeting with, while Ice Cube was meeting me, did he talk to him about how he's trying to suppress the vote? Did he talk to him about the fake ballot boxes they have all over the country? Did he talk to him about the poll watchers they're going to have that could potentially have violent outcomes with black people? Did he talk to them about how long our lines we have to wait in to vote? Did he do that?
Tawana, after hearing that, do you feel like D.L. Hughley had a point?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of D.L. Hughley. Like, I agree with him. He's like, excuse me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black, and I'm on his side with that. So I'm like, he's absolutely right in the fact that, I have more of a sense of, awareness that I feel like I wouldn't align myself with someone like Trump because I know why he does what he do. Like, I understand who he's trying to appeal to, and I know that his entire premise has absolutely no agenda for what I am looking to accomplish. So I think that his whole entire point was that he's just trying to spread awareness, and I understand that completely. And we cannot change who's in power. He was elected, he won fair and square, so he is our president, right? So I feel like some people feel like they need to cancel culture because he aligns himself with this person. And I don't feel that way. I feel like I understood why Ice Cube did what he did. Would that be my principles and would that be something that I would do? No. Like, I would never meet with Trump. He has nothing to say to me about anything that I need to accomplish in my life. So I love him. I love that D.L. Hughley is like an advocate for African American people. Like, he understands the bigger picture, and he's such a he's so good at pointing out the obvious that Trump is using Ice Cube's status to elevate himself and to appeal to a certain population. Do I think it's black people? No, I don't think so. I think it's the middle class. I think it's white folks, but I do understand exactly what his point was. So yeah, I agree with him. I'm for D.L. Hughley in all aspects.
Tawana, I don't know if I 100% agree with you or D.L. Hughley. And the reason why I say that is because I felt like when that came out, he didn't even hear the facts behind it, which a lot of us do. They see stuff, they hear stuff, and then they just real quick to judge.
Why do you think he didn't hear the facts?
Because if he would have understood that Ice Cube reached out to the Democrats, they wanted to push it off into, after the election.
I think,
and he also reached out, to the Republicans, and they said, "Hey, we'll hear you." Now they may have had a motive, true enough, but I feel like at least he's doing something, and I feel like a lot of people are always talking about what people are not doing when they're not doing anything themselves.
But you can't just, just because somebody show you attention, don't mean you need to show them attention back. Like, you need to be selective about who you align yourself with, and that is the
But the very people that we align ourselves, the very people that you align yourself with, won't even have a conversation with you. So how does that make sense? They ain't even letting you.
No,
come to
they
the
were
table and
honest
talk
with
to
him
you.
about what they needed to do. They told him the priority, which is the election. It is the priority right now.
No,
They
said.
did. They
So
told
wait,
him the priority.
you're telling me. Wait, you telling me they can't even hear him out until after the
They
election?
told him the truth.
No, I mean,
That's crazy.
I work in government. I understand what's priority and what's not, and we have to delegate tasks.
Wait. Biden is funny because in the debate that we talked about, the thing that he emphasized, the moderator and Trump asked him, has he ever made a phone call to any of these mayors in any of these cities and had a conversation with them about how they can more effectively, have these protests, or, what suggestion that he would give them as a policymaker? And you know what he said? He was like, well, I'm not in government right now, so I don't really have a voice, which basically tells me that you have more time than the actual administration that did take time out to have the conversation with you. You're talking about an administration that's dealing with, worldwide issues and trade platforms and a COVID crisis and negotiating stimulus plans with, the Senate and Nancy Pelosi and all of these people. And they have time to, at the very least, hear you out and sit down and hear what you have to say. But we're going to align ourselves and not give that same level of criticism. At the very least be objective to give the same level of criticism to the very person who has less on their plate than anybody in government, won't even hear you. And you telling me that makes sense because they told you the truth, that they wouldn't even sit down and had a conversation with you? Not even an aide, not anybody from the administration's party, nobody, no handler, nobody was willing to sit down and have the conversation with you. And you telling me that makes sense?
That's the thing. The thing with us is we always want immediate gratification, and we don't really take the time to say, you know what, that makes complete sense. And maybe just like we're giving Trump grace and saying maybe he didn't have ulterior motives, maybe they really are saying to him, hey, we are doing this right now, but this is important to us as well, and we may bring you on and have an initiative.
That's not what he said.
Planning.
That's not what he said. They said what he said. They said was
Ice Cube made it clear that they told him that was the priority at this moment, but that they still wanted to talk to him.
The whole premise for what Ice Cube said in the very beginning, in the first video that he explained, he said, hey, we need to start having these conversations as to what we want for our vote. You can't have the conversation after I vote for you. I have an objective. I have things that I want to have a conversation about. Are you willing to come to the table with me? And then we can have a conversation about how we can get the black vote as a result of something that you're willing to participate in. You can't say, okay, we'll talk to you after you vote for us. That's the complete opposite of his
objective. They didn't say that.
This is what Ice Cube said. He said
that he didn't say they said after you vote for us.
Asked them to have the conversation. They said, we'll address it and talk to you after the election. You are asking me for my vote, but you don't even want to sit down and talk to me. I don't know how that makes sense in anybody's mind. I don't care what side of the aisle you on.
I don't know. I mean, can I give two responses?
Go ahead.
One was more so just kind of on the tail end of what we were talking about with the approach of being able to sit with him, right? The thing is, I kind of, this goes back, you mentioned this earlier, JR, about the timing of this. Mm-hmm. To me, it's I have to look at, politics as governmental affairs. This is industry, right? So the thing is, in this industry, folks have strategic plans on how they go about their daily operations, both micro and macro. The thing is, if this was something that was, pertinent, that had to be discussed, you could have talked to me months back about this. Can't show up, and I don't care whether it's Trump, whether it's John Doe or whomever, even myself, you can't show up on my doorstep the month before one of the biggest elections in modern history to pitch a plan.
But I can, because you're asking for my vote. It's not like this is not the world.
Just because he Ice Cube and he made Friday.
This is not something like getting something for nothing.
This shows the contrast, because I think that Trump is willing to hear it, because I don't know if Trump has a strategic plan or
They never
how to go about
refused to
securing the
talk to
vote.
him. Never.
So it's like I'm gonna leverage whatever I can do. I'm scrambling. So I'm trying to, hey,
I'm
I hear
amazed.
somebody out right now.
I'm amazed at the lack of criticism and scrutiny that we don't have for all parties.
No,
We
I
are
would feel the
so
same way. No, honestly, I would feel
one-sided.
the same way. It was the other way around, and
But no.
Republicans
Nobody
said
is
that,
having
right?
a conversation and saying anything about the fact that, and I'm not talking about Biden specifically, but they're not having. Dog, you know how huge the Democratic
But see, that's the
Party
thing. Like,
is?
so we're this is where the tunnel vision comes in. That we're assuming that other people not named Ice Cube has already been having conversations
Right.
about the black agenda,
But that's
about
exactly
black economics and things like that. So
if you do the research, B-Nix, you'll find out that what is it, Dr. Earl Boyce Watkins or something like that? They had a whole consortium of people that they've been working with for months on this whole, because he said y'all crazy if y'all think that Ice Cube just put this together on his own. We've been working with him. We've been having these conversations with all parties, and they are refusing to come to the table with us. So for us to sit here and act like, oh, they just sprung this on us now. No, this has been in the works for a long time. And that's exactly what my narrative is that are we not objective enough to hold everybody's? I understand if you want to hold.
So it's been unobjective for a long time, but then Trump decided a month before election.
You only able to have a conversation one way.
No.
That is a real strategy. That's a strategy.
That's the thing. It's like, so going back to just the framing in which I'm talking about, being sincere, you can't show. And the thing is, I mentioned earlier, Anton, that the way the story was released, I hated it. But the thing is, Cube even alluded to, this isn't something like, hey, one weekend he was just sitting around him and his guys and like, hey, I got this plan about black economics. So the thing is, I'm not saying that, but based on as a current state of affairs right now, I'm not trying to be distracted because I'm trying to win an election. If Trump went, and Trump didn't even, like the fact it was Trump's people. You know what I mean? So
but that's not what we're talking about.
Democrats, we have more to lose.
We're not talking about who you're going to vote for. We're talking about holding everybody's feet to the fire.
I'm not saying that
That's
either.
what we're talking about.
I'm not saying that either. And the thing is, like, going back to the earlier point that we mentioned with DL Hughley, the thing is, like, I respect where DL was coming from, but to me, that's a different agenda. Cube's agenda was focusing on black economics. What DL Hughley was talking about, it talks about the law enforcement, the mistreatment of black folks, and not to say that both don't support each other, but technically those are two different agendas. So I respect
but I think what I think he was saying was, why even align yourself with a person who thinks this way? Like, why do you think that his agenda would ever align with whatever you're trying to do for African Americans?
Well, I already broke
and I think that's what
I already gave reasons why in the very.
But it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation.
It's not against
the conversation.
Folks have different perspectives. Again, just because we black, that don't mean that we have to agree on the same agenda every time.
That's true.
Always
let me help you to understand.
It's not always a one voice, one sound type.
Democrats are already having the conversation about inequality, racial inequality. It's the conservative. Yes, we are. It's the conservatives that have challenges with addressing those issues, and that is why Trump jumped to the whole entire.
You know what's wrong with us as a people?
That's why.
With us as a people?
Hey, define us.
We think that
who you talking to next? You said define us.
It's one-sided, and everybody is just going.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he meant by that too.
The interesting thing about it is that anybody that understands business, anything that understands moving in a positive direction or getting things done or anything, understands that you can't just do it with one party. Even if the Republicans, and they were true to their heart and they really wanted to do this thing and they pushed it through, guess what? They couldn't do it without a bipartisan agreement. And that's why we have these different levels of government, because even if Trump wanted to do something, he has to get it approved through our Senate and our House of Representatives,
it will be,
and all these things. But my point is that the whole point that they wouldn't even come to your table, they wouldn't even had a conversation with you, and y'all think that that's okay? Y'all think that it's okay that they wouldn't even entertain a conversation with you on any level? Not just
he didn't say that. They didn't say that.
Level, on any level, and y'all not.
Bruh, like
they didn't say that.
It's silly to me.
They didn't say that.
I'm done with this. I see how biased everything is, and the hate is so real that it's hurting ourselves. We don't even realize that we the ones being hurt from not being objective, being open to the possibility of having these conversations.
Right, because I'm like, dude, you talking the same stuff that you saying, like, accept other people's perspectives when you can't accept nobody else's their perspective.
Yeah,
Look at you getting all emotional about somebody else's perspective. I can't even talk no more.
That's just completely like if a person is unable to even be open to a conversation, it's no conversation to be had.
Like,
so there's nothing else for me to say.
Just to be clear,
open don't mean I agree.
Again,
open.
You can't be strategic showing up at somebody's doorstep the month before the biggest election and saying, "Hey, I need to holler at you, bro." I get that. This ain't no mom and pop operation, and I'm not saying that for the Democrats. I feel the same way as Republicans. The thing is, like, we'll see what we can do. So, all right, so we still technically don't know what the Republicans are really going to incorporate. So, not to say it's a send-off,
but they still want your vote, though. They still want your vote. They still
but the thing is, Ice Cube's
Ice
Cube's focus wasn't about necessarily securing the vote. It was about black economics. So again, it goes back to the agenda. The thing is, being strategic in the industry, last minute planning never works. You crash and burn that way. Okay. So the thing is, even if Trump listened to him, you're not going to hear Trump talk about that during the debate tonight to say, like, hey, after talking to Ice Cube, this is actually my 36-point plan that we're going to incorporate, and 15 of the 36 comes from Ice Cube's black economics plan. That's not going to be the case.
Do Joe Biden even have any power in this at this point? I mean, I feel like he's made a good point. Like, let's wait until
he didn't say
I'm
he
elected.
Talked to Joe Biden. He said he talked to the
Camilla,
Democratic Party.
all of them. He needs to wait.
Party. Why do y'all keep just encapsulating this with one person? He talked to the party. The party is
kind of sound. Yeah, what it sounds like is we gonna agree to disagree on this one.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, host. The hostess with the mostest.
You know, women were upset, stating that Ice Cube did not mention anything about women in his contract with black people. I'm gonna play a clip from the Cocktails with Queens.
I hear what you're saying, but I just want you to know, as black women, how we would feel with there's no mention specifically of black women in the contract with Black America. They do have
to stand on top of that. I just told you can write that up if you want
it's
to.
We're not out here jumping on calls.
We all black, so we all.
We're not meeting up with Jared Kushner and Donald Trump about this. You are. So you can't say, well, if you don't like it, add to it. You're out here. You took that job. You took that position to lead this. So like, don't say
I'll write up the black woman's part of the contract for you.
Yeah,
how many words do y'all want it to be? The thing is, you guys are the experts, but here we go again. You just want to talk. Nobody want to help me. Just want to talk. But y'all the experts on black women, so why won't y'all help me? See, that's the problem.
I can tell you why. You just let me know the party. So anyway, the initiatives have already been set.
Hey, next, after seeing that about the women being upset.
Hey, I didn't even know that show exists. I'm like, man, what the hell is this show? Who were those?
I've seen it a few times.
I've seen it. Who started the purple hair? Like,
I mean,
who already, like, why are they relevant? But nonetheless, they must be if they got a show. But again, here we go. I almost want to feel this a distraction. Like, we all up in arms. Like, now I don't know. I gotta admit, this is probably the most I've seen Ice Cube do this type of like conversation with me. Like, you need to go and write a script for another movie or something. I feel like, hey, you're in a different space now, Q, and the world is different. Like, hey, boy, you can't dismiss people like that. You put yourself out there. You got to hear folks out. That's part of being in this space. You got to be able to provide the space for people to talk. The thing is, hey, I don't know. There's no right or wrong. Like, should it be a woman's part of it? I don't see why not, but I respect what he was saying. He said it's for black folks. I don't think he said men this or men that, or at least maybe I missed it.
So you think they was overreacting?
Bias, you know?
So you think they was overreacting? The women?
I don't know. Low key, I said from the jump, I didn't care about the plan anyway. Like, see, that's why I didn't want to give this too much energy, because now it becomes one of those, like, you know, it's a catch-22, you know. But the thing is, if you go into that space, because think about it, going back.
It's okay to be honest on the show, Nick. It's okay.
No, this is going back to
where they overreacting. Did they take the attention away from the contract with black people and try to pull themselves into it?
All right, I don't care. But the thing is, was they overreacting?
Huh? Oh, go back. You said what?
About me not caring?
Yeah.
I said that at the beginning of the show. I didn't care about the plan. It's not like I'm not taking away from the value of it, but it's just like I don't know. I don't care about Ice Cube's plan. It's like it's so many other people that are also doing the same type of work. That again, I have more of an issue that we're elevating Ice Cube's plan over pre-existing plans of people who actually does.
I like the way you dodged that question, Nick. You dodged it pretty well.
Were they overreact? So were they overreacting, Nick? Yes or no? Yes. No, they wasn't. It was just folks talking. That's how folks talk. That's how black folks talk. All right. Hell,
I need to learn how to dodge bullets like this, man.
Hey, Anton, when you saw that video,
I gotta learn how to dodge bullets like you do, Nick, man. You
ain't no dodging bullets. I don't care. No, it's just folks talking. Do I think me, Anton, and Tawana overreact? No.
Kind of sound like Nick don't want to be canceled. That's what it sounds like.
Hey, man, he just need. Hey, if you enter a certain space,
Anton.
No, hold on. Before you go to Anton, hey, if you enter a different space in a different industry, you got to be ready to take it. Hey, take them bullets. The thing is, he needs to be ready to be prepared and see this through. So I want to see the continuation of Q socializing this plan. Because you know what? This is what happens going back to vetting. I mentioned this earlier, and Anton, you gave me the background.
You still answer the question, did he, Tawana?
His background that talked and worked with his plan, but he didn't socialize the shit. So the thing is, I'm learning the plan just along with the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. He needed to socialize this. If this is a true grassroots, ground-up approach, this is what happens when you don't socialize the plan. You ever been at work and your boss will tell you, "Oh, this is what we doing"? Nigga, no. It's like you need to walk me through this first before I agree to anything. So the thing is, you know what? He should have had them voices with him when he was planning.
Right.
I don't know. You sound like Trump on the last debate, man.
It ain't
just
Trump,
dodging
man.
them.
This is just how
You're dodging them questions.
You know what though? I actually feel like D-Nick do not care. Like for real. Like I feel like he
may not care, but I want him to answer that question. I wanted to get a straight answer.
He don't care though. Like he really legit don't care.
That one? Okay.
That was the answer. No.
Anton.
You gave me a question. I gave you the answer.
Gotcha.
Overreacting, no.
All right. I'm gonna go to Anton now. Anton, when you saw that video, what were your thoughts?
Every last one of them is overreacting, and
what the tone of why are they overreacting, Anton?
They operate in the same way that every single person that has had criticism for Ice Cube in the first place has, which is they have not actually contributed, reached out, or did anything. You know, I want to see people track record when they got something to say about somebody else. I want to see how many times that they've reached out to their local officials and elected
Anton,
officials.
I agree. I want to see the other strategic plans that Ice Cube has provided on behalf of black people. This is a different industry. This ain't rap. This ain't fucking entertainment. This is not music. This is not movies. So again, going back to track record, why are we giving Ice Cube so much attention when he's not known for strategic planning? So
is he just a face?
Now all of a sudden I gotta bow down to Ice Cube's plan because of his privilege, and we gotta fucking talk about this shit tonight. And we've been talking about this shit for an hour, and we can't move on to the next topic. I don't care. I said that at the beginning of the show.
All right, Tawana, go ahead and close this out.
No, those women were not overreacting. However, I will say honestly that I read the full contract, and I do not believe he mentioned gender at all. I do believe that he really talked about things that would benefit anyone, whether you're female or male. The wealth gap. He talked about banking lending reform. He talked about the baby bond, where each kid will get $1,000, and it would be government funded money. He talked about interest-free loans for home ownership. He talked about de-escalation techniques for police officers. He absolutely did not mention gender at all, and he did not, to me, seem focused on a particular individual. I think that they may be triggered by the media and what's going on in the media and the responses people are saying. And I really urge all those ladies to go to his website and read his actual contract and see that there isn't a lot of sexist disparities. I think maybe the focus on police reform and arrest, it doesn't necessarily benefit women. So maybe that's what they mean, that some of the things don't benefit women, are not targeted, toward women. But I do believe that was a fair question.
Hey, the question was they overreacting? No. Now, you wanted me
they
to
weren't.
give you more.
I got you.
We're not talking about content, right? You asked, were they overreacting? No. They got the right.
It was a fair question.
Give them the space.
Yeah, it was a fair question.
Yeah.
It wasn't an overreaction.
Now, if you're talking about critiquing the plan and stuff like that, that's a different question, JR. But you asked me specifically, hey, were they overreacting? No, that's just how they talk. I'm sure you brought on another guest. They'll be asking the same type of questions, whatever. But the thing is, for Q, hey, and that's why I almost got to go back to Tawana mentioned. You got to big up D.L. Hughley. The thing is, as far as the transition, we still used to look at him as a comedian. He has now that track record of being in that space of politics. So now I'm able to give him more value. And when he talks about certain aspects of governmental affairs and politics, Cube talks about it in his raps, but this ain't it. This is the plan. This is about economics. So the thing is, what other things have Q done? And maybe I don't know. As far as black economics.
I would say he's done some stuff. I'm not gonna.
What has D.L. Hughley done?
He's a part of several initiatives
for many years.
I think, he is an activist. He's not just he's very.
What specifically has he done for black people?
Bush was still in office.
What physical significant thing has he done for black people?
Do you research D.L. Hughley on a regular day? I
don't know either.
I know what Martin Luther King did at Rosa Parks.
Name me one thing.
Besides Lapeef being black owned, I can't say what has been done in the community with Lapeef. I mean,
y'all just over talking. It don't matter.
So
name me one specific thing.
D.L. Hughley and Anton don't do nothing for black people. Is that what we're saying?
Name me one thing. Name me one thing that D.L. Hughley.
After the show.
Name me one thing that D.L. Hughley has done outside of talk and run his mouth and criticize everybody else. Name me one thing he has done that has translated into anything positive for black people. Name me one physical thing.
I don't know. We'll see. That depends on how we define it.
Now it depends.
No, because I look at it. He's created the
at
space.
The forefront. Man, get this
That's what he has done. He's created the space.
All right,
the truth, man. Because the thing is, you know what we doing right now, Anton? Creating the space. Because somebody can ask us the same question on what Tawana
and I can run down a whole list of different things that I've done that has benefited my people. That's
but folks don't know that on top. Folks don't
nobody know that.
I don't just talk. Yeah, they do. Because it's champion.
We have to call JR. Invite DL to the show. We need to ask him.
Yeah, I'm about to probably reach out to his people.
Yeah, reach out to his people. I want him on the show.
Nah, yeah,
his people. Because I want him on the show. I want him to tell
us. All right, y'all.
Hey.
We about to move on to the.
I didn't even know he was gonna play that clip. I thought we were prepared to talk about Q. And you talking about DL? I just know Buddy had a show and he created the space for dialogue. The thing is, folks got a dialogue, Anton. That's what this is right now. So you got to give.
Oh, they got a dialogue. But in order to have a dialogue, you actually got to be able to sit at the table. Goes back to our original conversation of people not even letting you have a conversation before you vote for them.
Q's not a politician, though, man.
He not.
All right, y'all. We're about to ready to close this one on out. We're gonna close this one on out.
Don't close it out.
We're closing it out. We're closing this one out.
So no, Anton, give more clarity, man. Give me more what you just mentioned. Unpack it for me.
You don't have to be. You know, it reminds me of the conversation that we had several shows ago, where we were talking about it, JR, and I was talking about how I put so much effort and so much time into a specific community and specific people, and then the only thing you get back from it is criticism and hate from the very people that you're working on their behalf. And it's so ironic to me that we are so quick to criticize other people that are putting themselves at the forefront of something that they actually believe they're doing out of like selflessness. They're not getting anything from it. Cube literally is in a great space financially. He's accomplished. He can literally ride off into the sunset and just live his life. But he's decided to sacrifice and spend his time working on behalf of other people that don't have nothing but criticism and hate towards him and saying, why ain't you? Why ain't you doing this too? And why ain't you included this too? And I just hate this mentality that we feel like somebody owes us an explanation for something that they're doing on our behalf. That is the most ignorant, selfish perspective that you can take. Like somebody owe you something. Oh, hey, you got to qualify him, but he's not even a politician.
Anton, this ain't nothing new. You think about like with any martyr. You think about even with Malcolm
is exactly
and Martin.
Why we in the position that we in.
Malcolm and Martin back
this is
then.
This is exactly why we in the position that we in, because no other community treats people that's actually working on their behalf like we treat people, even when they look like us. I don't think it's
just a black folks
we hate
issue.
Our own
It comes
people.
with any position of leadership, man.
Okay. Well, I unpacked it for you, so there you go.
It comes with any position of leadership, man. You gotta be able to receive the hate. But the thing is, my only thing, and then we can close this out, JR, from this moment on. So since we're talking about Q, same way we talking about DL, we need to follow Q from this point on. My only thing as far as background resume, if this is the space he want to operate in as far as the next stage of what he's trying to do, you got to keep it going. You got to persevere and you got to be present. Because the thing is, post-election, are we going to hear from Cube in January, March, April, May?
That's a good point.
Next election? Or was this kind of like, hey, I just had some time.
That's a good point.